Imagine a nuclear war. After a nuclear war, there's nothing left. There'll still be a fish and chip shop stand there and a queue of people outside there going, what time do you open? It is that after a fish and chip shop, where do you go? What I would say is it's a very profitable business and it's a good business, but it's very, very hard work. It's not so much a job as a way of life. Even if things got really, really, really bad and people didn't have money, we could still cook chips and serve them that food. And people would still come for that quite humble food.
My guest today is Tom Howell, the owner of Prime Fry Fish and Chip Shop here in Jersey. I believe that he's got a very inspiring story, starting from nothing to the successful story that Prime Fry Fish and Chip Shop is today. You're not one of the persons I used to work with in the past as a chef, but I used to work with you on a few projects, on video projects, and it was an absolutely pleasure. I feel like you have such a, a young spirit, and you're so excited about everything new. And I really like that about you. And as soon as I thought about doing a podcast, you were in my mind like right away because you're such a vibrant person. And I do like having people like this and positive and, all good things about you. Now, this podcast is about hospitality and you are in this field. And I do want to know, like, what's your story, how you basically started in this field?
Oh, wow. It was basically by accident. I came to Jersey. I came off the boat. I had no money. And I was basically walking around Jersey looking for a job, literally knocking on doors. And I walked into the fish and chip shop in St. Brolard, spoke to the chap there. He said, look, we don't need anyone at the moment, but if you come back in 6 weeks, I can offer you a job. So this is March time. He was good enough to ask me, he said, look, where are you staying? I said, actually, I don't have anywhere to stay. He said, do you have any money? And I said, I actually don't have any. He said, would you like something to eat? I said, actually, I would. He gave me something to eat out of the kindness of his heart. And then he came from the back of the shop and he said, look, I hope that can help you. And he gave me an old tent. And I went, that's fantastic, So ate the food, thanked him, and took the tent up to the sand dunes in St. Juan's. Set up the tent in St. Juan's in the sand dunes, hit it with branches. I mean, it was really... Because if the police found you, they would put you in...
Bear Grylls style.
It really was. It really was. And I thought this will be fine. But it was, like I said, it was March time and it was so cold. It was so cold. This tent, when I got it out of the bag, wasn't exactly a tent. It was more like a canvas cover. So it had no bottom on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it had no bottom on it. So I was like literally trying to sleep on the floor. And it was just awful. I mean, you can imagine 2 weeks there. 2 weeks, it was just dreadful. I'd get up at, say, 2 a.m. and go running around just to feel warm again. Oh, it was awful, Radu. But I managed to stay for the 6 weeks. I got a temporary job. And then the man whose name was John Catherine, he was the manager of the fish and chip shop in St. Brolard. He kept me to his word and he gave me a full-time job. So that's when I was drawn into it. Before that, I'd been cooking at home. I've got 4 brothers, my father and mother. I'd cook for them since I was 9. So my mother would be working, my father would be working. My brothers were not lazy, but they just not interested in cooking. So my mother said to me, look, will you help me? So I started off peeling potatoes. Then I thought, right, I can do that. Then cooking the potatoes, then with chips and egg. And before I knew it, I was cooking dinner for the entire family. So maybe I've always had that skill, or maybe I've always wanted to feed people, so.
The circumstances, kind of got you into on the fish and chip side and everything from there. But we all know, like, whether people ask, when people ask where is the best fish and chips in Jersey, I would say probably, let's not say 100% of the time people will say Prime Fry, but it will be close to that.
Yes.
Even without kind of like, without much advertisement or without people kind of like know you. But before the Prime Fry story, I know people kind of know you because I was at the shop when we were filming, and there were quite a few people saying, oh, I know you from St. Brolard. I know you from...
Yes.
Because you had other places, right, before this. So what was your career timeline from St. Brolard to Prime Fry to basically today?
Okay. The shop, this was 1982 when I was taken on to work at the shop for that year. I was given the management job. So I was 18 years of age, given the management job. The boss came to me and he said, look, do you think you can do it? And I said, yeah, I can do it. He gave me a year. Within that year, the takings in the shop went up. We improved the menu, the staff training. I got it all right. Where it come from, I don't know, but I got it all right. And then the year after, I told the boss, the owner, that I'd gone as far as I could with that fish and chip shop then, and I'd be leaving. And he said, well, look, would you like to buy it?
Oh, wow.
I was 20. It was £100,000, which then back in 1982, that was a fortune. It was a fortune. So I went to the bank. I took down the year's takings, profit and loss, gave it to the bank, and lo and behold, they said yes. I couldn't believe it, Radu. I lived in a bedsit. I didn't even own a car. And they said, yes, we'll lend you £100,000. Can you believe that? So yeah, so that was it. Propelled into it. I managed to pay that full amount off within 3 years. So, and we just built up. I had great staff with me. It was a lot of the boys that come from Liverpool that worked for me were like young guys, and we had such a lovely time. We were in paradise. Okay, we worked hard. But once we finished, we'd go to the beach. We'd have beach parties. We knew all of the people there. I mean, it was really, really wonderful. Even people who worked for me, I bump into now, and they say, you know what? That was amongst one of the most favourite times of my life. And I've got to agree with that. It was fantastic. The 80s in Jersey and St. Brollard's was just magic. It was just magic. It really was.
So was it from there that you started Prime Fry, or was it something in between?
No, not at all. So I had the Golden Fry from 1980, from the 80s up until 2000, when they knocked down the building and they said, right, we're going to rebuild it, but we'll give you a new lease. So that was all good. And then when it came to about 2 weeks before we should have been moving into the new unit, they said, actually, you're not getting the unit. We've given it to a bank. It's terrible, really.
So you had to relocate again, to find a new adventure.
Yeah, exactly. So then I thought, okay. So then I went to Beaumont. I opened, the Beaumont was a small fish and chip shop. Small, but had a loyal following. And the chap who had it, he was a lovely guy. So I went in there and I thought, right, what can I do here? Now, there was no way to expand physically the business in a physical way. But I thought by doing deliveries, I can expand it that way. So I met a chap from London, an Indian guy. He was a chef, very, very good chef, I've got to say. He was trained with the Hyatt, the hotel group Hyatt. Really, really fantastic it was. And I went into a partnership with this guy. So we would do, in the back, we were doing Indian food. In the front, we were doing traditional fish and chips. And we were doing deliveries of both. And it was just a massive success. It was fantastically busy. Yeah. And then so after about 2 years, I just decided I wanted a break from it. I've been doing this now for a long time. So I sold the business. I was supposed to sell it to my business partner, but he left Jersey anyway. So I managed to sell the business, went off to Australia for best part of a year, just to recuperate and see Australia, really. And then when I came back, I actually trained as a counsellor, which is strange. I after 2 weeks holiday in Australia, I was bored. So I started looking for courses.
So I've seen on the website that you've got, train a psychotherapist, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of like I feel like you would be perfect for it, but I never actually knew that. I genuinely did not know. So that's when it happened then.
Yeah. So when I was in Australia, I started to do a lot of humanistic courses and different things, really interesting things, really unusual and interesting. And when I came back to Jersey, there was Silkworth Lodge, which was a rehabilitation centre. It just opened and they were looking for staff. I applied. They asked me down for an interview and I really liked those people. They really liked me. And lo and behold, that was it. They took me on. Within, I think it was 3 or 4 years, I was running the entire unit. I was the, what do they call it? The program director.
Oh,
which was a little bit not what I wanted because it was more of an office type thing rather than doing a group therapy, doing one-on-ones and basically getting, into the nitty gritty. I enjoyed that much more. So yeah, that was that. So I stayed there for as long as I could till it became more of just an office role and then I didn't want it. I just didn't. So I resigned, I left. And then lo and behold, a chap who was in, finance, he'd bought the fish and chip shop, Prime Fry. Why he bought it, he must have just bought it as an investment and then saw that it was basically, it was much more involved than that. It's not something you can just put people in and leave alone, and then it produces.
And you need to know what you're doing, and you had the experience and everything.
And also you have to have a sort of a passion. You have to have a passion. Without that, it's dead. So this chap, he asked me down for some advice. He said, we had a mutual friend. So I come down to give him some advice. And while I was there, he said to me, do you want to work for me? And I said, no, I don't. I've come to just offer you some advice. And he said, would you want to buy the shop? And I said, no, I don't want to do that either. Thank you, but no, thank you. And then his third offer was, how about if you work in the shop and run it and bank the everything and then pay me with the money that you bank? And I thought, well, you want me to pay you with your own money? And he said, more or less. And I said, yeah, I'll absolutely shake your hand on that. So we shook hands on that. He was happy with the deal. He got paid, he got out, and he's still in finance and doing very, very well in that. And I bought Prime Fry. I thought, okay, let's do what we've always done. Let's do good quality fish and chips, honestly, with nothing added to it. Just good quality potatoes, really good quality fish, cooked well, and that's it. That's all you need to do. It's not something that you can prep a day before, like in like chefs and kitchens. It has to be cooked on the day. Everything on the day, prepared fresh, and then cooked to order. And if you do that, people will love your product. They will love your product. So that's it.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like simple, and it probably is, when you think about it, like the core of the what you do, because you focus on fresh ingredients, you want to keep people happy. And I know you're not driven by money, because I stay there with you for like 2 or 3 days, and I can see the engagement you have with people, and I can see, obviously our business needs to be profitable, no question about it, because you have people to pay and so on. But you're so passionate about it, and I can see you're not just the owner that at the end of the day comes and pick up the money, and then it runs kind of you are there. You are basically I don't know. You work there, it's not like, you're an operator. That's what I was looking for. And I think it's really powerful when a business owner is there, and it controls the standard of its business, and it's, And I believe even the staff, I can see, they respect you so much for that, because when I spend that time with you guys, I could see, that respect with your staff. And some of the guys, I know you have them there. You've been working with them for years and years. And it's not many businesses that can say that, And I don't know, how do you keep your staff? How do you keep them motivated? In today's,
treat them well, pay them fairly, and don't. I've always tried to lead by example. So if there's a job like cleaning the bins. Most people don't want to get into big dumpster bins and clean them. It's a really dirty job, so I will do it. And if the staff see me doing that and I clean them and I bleach them out and I steam clean them, then the staff are willing to do it, because they know, well, it's no problem, I'll do it, no problem. And I think if you lead by example like that, people really respond to it. They do. Andre, I'm lucky to have had Andre with me since I bought the business. Andre was there. There were 2 guys there. One of the guys didn't want to stay. We just basically said, look, we're going to have to retrain you guys, because you don't really know what you're doing, but we do. So we'll show you what to do. One of the guys said, oh no, I want to leave. So we said, okay, fine. Andre stayed with me. So I've tried to be as fair and honest with Andre as I can be. And
you trust him, he trusts you, because I see that relationship. When I was there. You will lead him. Andre, could you please close today? I've got to go, I don't know, to the bank or so on. No problem. And probably the other way around, when you need him to be there on his own, that he's going to do a good job, no matter what. So I think that relationship is really, really powerful, and really something that you don't really see in many businesses now. And I don't know yeah, as you said, you have your own way, like treating them well, and it's not hard, but I guess, it's still a skill, like
Yeah.
knowing how to keep these people, in
Yeah.
time. Okay, so you have a saying, fresh, never frozen. I remember when we
Yes.
were, yeah, when we were, when we were doing the video, and you kind of started with that. Wouldn't be easier to go frozen?
It would be easier, a lot easier, of course. That's why most of the fish and chip shops now in Jersey are all frozen, because it's easier. Because the real pain in the butt really is sourcing good quality potatoes, finding a grower that will grow them for you, having them delivered. It's all labor intensive, and then actually peeling them by hand. Okay, we have machines, but they have to be done by hand. It's all quality controlled by somebody, usually me. So it's these hard jobs that I do that the staff don't do. So if I'm not there, they're quite willing to do them because they think, well, he does it. But I think that what makes prime fry so different and what keeps people coming back is the fact that we source. I've now got a grower that grows just for me, which I've been trying to get this relationship for such a long time with Jersey farmers, and they'll grow so many ton, 15, 20, and then they'll run out, and then you've got to try and sort, and it's a real pain. I've got a grower now that grows exclusively for me, really wonderful varieties of potatoes, and I mean wonderful. The one that we'll be on within the next few weeks is just beautiful. When it's in service, I'll give you a call to come down, and you'll be like, they are amazing. So it's just that. It seems a small thing, but it's a very, very important thing. If I go to a restaurant and they serve frozen chips, I don't want that. I want someone to have peeled them, someone to have chipped them and made them cooked them in nice oil and then put them down. And the flavor in those fresh potatoes is incomparable. There's nothing compares. There's no frozen chip that I've ever seen that comes even near them. And people might think it's not important, but for me, it's the most important. Exactly. It's the most important. But people think, chips are chips. It doesn't matter. Just frozen, cook them away. And then you eat them and they taste of nothing, literally nothing. Everybody, on a daily basis, people come to the fish and chip shop, all walks of life, and they'll say, best chips. I always come here because of that, and I think that's really nice.
I totally agree with that, because I've seen people coming there just for chips only. And I was really surprised because in my mind, I always thought that nobody will come for chips only, but you have like lots of people coming just for chips. And I was really, really, honestly, really surprised. And I work in hospitality myself, but obviously I'm never really on the cheap shop side or takeaway. But to see that many people, coming for chips only, that the ingredient must be good. Everything you do there, from that perspective, where you source them from, the consistency and everything else must be good in order to have that many people. And I must say, my opinion is that the location in a way doesn't really help you. So
that's true.
It doesn't really help you, but considering that you have that many people walking to your door, and not having a good location, that says a lot about a business, in my opinion. I think so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think if you have a product that you think is unique or it's really good, people will travel for it. We're not on the high street, so it's not people walking past. It's not really tourists. We cater for the people that live in Jersey and the locals, because they're our bread and butter in the depth of the winter as well as the height of the summer. And now, funny, this year specifically, since the inflation is so rampant, we found that our customers are starting to buy many more chips because maybe they don't have as much money. And if you think about it, £3, £2.90, whatever, for a bag of chips is a whole meal. I mean, that will fill your tum. You have
and
that
your
with a bit
portions
of bread.
are portions.
Well, you have that with a bit of bread. That's a proper meal. Now, if you had £3, what else are you going to buy that's going to give you that satisfaction? I think chips are still the most wonderful thing. It's the one thing if you eat them, they will make your tummy happy. That's really something. You kind of go, that was delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I guess so. Do you see are you affected by these, the costs, of everything? Because I remember it was like, must have been 2 years almost back, or a year something back, and you were saying, well, a drum of oil is already double price.
Yeah.
So you basically, oil is your kind of bread and butter. What are you gonna, without it, you can't you can't have a fish and chip shop. So that's already increasing the end result, which is the fish and chips, whatever you're producing. And it's inevitable that you need to rise prices. It's not like you can't function without it. And do you see this affecting you like a lot, or people coming?
It's affecting everybody. There's not a business in Jersey now that's not affected by inflation. I feel really for restaurants, because they must be struggling. They must be struggling, honestly. I speak to a lot of reps, and I speak to all of the van drivers. All the van drivers that deliver to Prime Fry, I will offer them lunch, because these guys are busy. And I say, look, do you want to eat? Do you want something to take with you? And nearly all of them say yes. So consequently, while I'm cooking them dinner, I chat to them, and they're basically saying, literally last winter, they were stressed. They were doing 12-hour shifts. They were doing 2-man's work. It was dreadful. Now what they're telling me is that the last couple of weeks, they're basically doing something they've never done, which is sitting round, which is strange, because inflation has hit everybody. I mean, I look at just the oil. The oil went from £19 a drum up to 50 something a drum. It's now £40 a drum. So it's still very, very high. And that's just one ingredient. Your chicken, fish, everything has either doubled or trebled. It's difficult. It's really cut into the margins, and our margins weren't huge anyway.
Yeah.
So like everybody else, we're just trying to get through this difficult patch. We're just trying our hardest to get through it.
Do you see better times ahead, or we're not yet at the point where we kind of like hit the peak?
No, I think we've got more pain to come. I honestly do. It's a time to batten down the hatches. Don't expand. Just batten down your hatches. Stick with what you've got.
Don't make big investments. Carry on with what you've got.
Yeah, and I honestly believe that we've got more of this to come. I can't see this being resolved. Definitely not this year anyway. Hopefully next year, I hope, but who knows? It seems at the moment the world is on its head. Everything we relied upon before is now been flipped on its head. Everything. So people, I think people's levels of anxiety as well have really risen. Mm-hmm. Really risen.
Well, that's when the economy kind of like shrinks, because people are a bit more afraid of like making moves, doing like, you're not in a normal, healthy environment, I guess. Yeah. We're not really here to talk about the economy, but this affects,
it affects everything.
It's a knock-on effect on whatever the business you've got, whether in Jersey or other places.
Yeah.
But probably not now, because I'm sure like now is not the time for it, and it probably doesn't even cross your mind. But before, have you ever considered, opening another Prime Fry, let's say in Sunderland or other places, having like a franchise in Jersey, more or less?
Do you know what? When I was a younger man, I would... at one point, I had the Golden Fry in St. Brelard, I had the Kingfisher in First Tower, and I was also running a restaurant on the campsite at Kennevay. And that year, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot.
Not to do it?
Well, to know your limitations.
Oh, okay.
So it would start off with breakfast at the campsite. I had 3 guys working there. It was very, very busy, the height of the summer. Very busy restaurant. And then I'd be at the fish and chip shop from 11 o'clock till 12 at night. So that's a whole day. Okay, 2 hours in the afternoon, when we'd go and get coffee and a sandwich and back. And then when I finished there at 12, I'd go down to the Kingfisher, and I'd be there till 2 in the morning. Oh, wow. And it was an awful lot to do. I was young then, and I was made of rubber, so I could do it, I could do it. But now... I think what I come to the conclusion, better to have one really good business, but you put all of your eggs into one basket, literally. You have one lot of overheads, one lot of rent. If you can maximize that one business, it's better than having 3 or 4 mediocre. And also I'm too old to do that now. My God.
Honestly, you might probably, I don't know, the age probably might not, honestly. You're such a young person, the way you think, the way you act, the way you dress,
thank you.
Everything, is young about it. So I'm sure you would be able to kind of like manage this. But one thing I can see a problem with is like so many people kind of like rely on your energy. You know, whenever they come to the shop, oh, Tom, how are you doing? And they always have like a quick chat. So you have like hundreds of people sometimes, you know, like that you try to kind of engage with all the time whilst cooking and whilst doing something else. And I think, you know, you can't duplicate Tom, you know, in 2-3 different locations.
That's really sweet.
But this is just true, you know, like I think and I realized that when we released the video, you remember on Facebook and on YouTube, how many people were so excited about you seeing, you being there and talking about your business. And it was a bit mind-blowing to me that, you know, you're so loved by your customer. Not mind-blowing, but it was, you know, it's such a special relationship. That's what I mean, you know. Because probably other business owners I love, but then at your level was just over the top, I would say. Because I've done videos for other businesses, and then I've seen kind of a close level, but not that level like we've done when we work in the past.
I think, to be honest with you, coming from Liverpool, we're very, very warm people, you know, and we love nothing more than having a laugh and a joke with people, and people love that. They really love it. They love friendliness and warmth and, you know, a joke. It's a lovely thing. So that's just naturally there. So when people come in, most people that come to the shop will have a good crack and a laugh. And, you know, I want people to feel like it's a friendly place. Growing up, I remember as a child, the local chip shop was a real hub. It really was a hub, you know, where everybody would go, and it really was. You know, you'd have mothers.
It was
there,
a coffee
fathers.
shop at the same time.
It was everything. You know, it was everything. If it was a pub, when then youngsters can't get in, women didn't really go to pubs that much in them days. But a fish and chip shop was where everybody could go. Mums, dads, kids. You know, you knew the person who was serving, you knew what they did, and you know, it was just wonderful. It really was. So I suppose I tried to recreate that feeling, to be the hub of a community. That's it. And I read somewhere lately, and it's a lovely thing, is one of the best things a person can ever do is offer good quality, inexpensive food to a community. And I thought, that's actually true.
And that's what you actually do.
Yeah, you know, there's a place that you can go where you get like your bacon sandwich or your coffee, and you know, like a small calf. And that can be so important. You know, I think a fish and chip shop's the same. You know, the people that come there, and we have everybody comes there. We have school teachers, we have advocates, just all across, you know, everybody likes fish and chips. So whether you're really posh or you're working class, it doesn't matter. Everybody loves fish and chips.
So you touch a bit on cheap shops, you know, like back in the days. And what's the difference? Do you see a difference between what was, let's say, when you were a child or when you started your business, even here in Jersey, to what is today? Has a lot changed? What was the difference? Was the same?
Okay, from my point of view, I've always tried to keep what we do traditional. So often people will come in and will say to me, you know, you should do deliveries. You need to do deliveries. But as I'm sure a lot of people know, and I certainly do know, fish and chips does not really travel well. It really doesn't. And I wish it did. I wish it did, because then I could do deliveries and you like turn up at your door.
I was going to ask you. Yeah,
honestly, I wish it did, and then I could deliver it to your door. But knowing that it doesn't, and being a bit of a perfectionist, I don't want to send a product that's not good. By the time you get it, you think, oh, well, it's a bit soggy and it's not as good as it could have been. So I don't want to do that. And the nearest we can sort of get to it is what we're going to introduce next year, which is click and collect, which basically you go online, you put your order in, you pay for it online, and you come in at 7:05 and it's Radu. And then I'll have people, they'll do the bag, they'll put your food in, everything's there, it's on the time, you come in, it's Radu, there you go, and we give it. And that way, that's becoming quite big in other parts of England, so I'm sure it will come to Jersey. And we will introduce that. So people will have to come and just get their fish and chips. They won't have to wait. They won't have to queue up or whatnot. But even the queuing, you know, I feel that's a part of the community, because everybody, when the shop's full, a lot of the people know each other. So people chat and it's old friends and it's...
They don't really mind being in a queue.
No, exactly. And to be honest with you, oftentimes, if a group of women meet there, you can't even get a word in edgeways. They're all chatting and you can't even get their orders because they're in such deep chats, you know. So I like that community side of it. So for us, Even way back in the day, fish and chips are quite simple, quite traditional. We've tried to mimic that and keep it exactly like that. Keep it traditional and simple. You know, don't add anything to it. Just good quality ingredients, cook them fresh and give them to people. Simple. You know, people will take that away, taste it. And the proof is in the taste. All the words, all the, nice videos and the advertising and all of that means nothing, because when that person tastes that, that says everything. That's, yeah, this is good or it's not good. You know, that's it. The proof's in the pudding, as they say.
Absolutely. What's the biggest amount of fish and chips, the number of fish and chips you sold on one day?
Yeah, easy. Battle of Flowers Association, 180 fish and chips for the Battle of Flowers people who make up the floats. 180.
And yours are not small. The portion is not small.
And also it was on a Friday night, which is our busiest night. It's the worst night that it could ever come on. And they want it at tea time. Yeah, we did it. Of course we did it, but it was pandemonium. You can imagine the boxes were as big as this table. And we're putting them in, fish and chips. It's just ridiculous. And then all the people who were waiting to be served, they were just looking at it as if to say, what the hell is this? But we told them, said, look, it'll probably take about half an hour, but we'll get it done. But yeah, that was it, hands down. I remember that one.
What keeps you motivated? Because as I said at the beginning, it's not from what I can see, and I was there, as I said, 2-3 days when we were done the filming, it's not necessarily money. I mean, as we were talking, business
you need to pay
profitable,
bills.
And then obviously pay bills, pay staff, and, keep everybody happy. But it's not just money. So what keeps you motivated? Because with money, probably you don't go too far.
Yeah. I'm quite a simple man. I've got quite simple tastes. I don't drive a big flash car. I live in a modest house. I do like to travel. What motivates? Do you know, it's a challenge. I like a challenge every day. I really like the challenge. So every day for me is a challenge. It's first and foremost, it's something to get out of bed for. You get out of bed, you get going, and you face the day, everything that it brings. I enjoy that. I really enjoy it. I can't imagine ever retiring. I just can't. I don't like golf. I don't really like fishing. I like work. Now, that might sound strange, but I actually like work. I like going to work.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can genuinely see that.
I like it.
And you do like being surrounded by people, as you said, people queuing up and then kind of like you behind there, frying and having a chat and so on. And you do like a bit of a chaos from that perspective, when it comes to that, that not necessarily chaos, but the bars, that you get of service.
I'd say it can be chaos. That's really what it can be. It looks like it's organized, but I suppose it's organized chaos. But I do like that. Fridays are still a very, very, very busy day. Monstrously busy, really, with the prep, with everything. And then everybody comes. We open at 5 o'clock. We close at 9 o'clock. Within that 4 hours, the shop is absolutely heaving. And it's only down to the good staff that are there, and a really, really good staff. My son now, he helps me. He's got a different profession, but he comes in and helps me, which I'm so blessed to have a good son. He comes in and says, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll help," and that's been a great help for me. It's just a pity I've really got no one to pass it on to.
I was gonna say, because I can see you like literally working till last day of your life, literally. But then after that, do you feel like the story of Prime Fry will continue, or you still kind of like in doubt whether you will or not?
I know it will. Well, let me tell you something about Prime Fry. Prime Fry was it's the oldest fish and chip shop in the Channel Islands. I think the fish and chip shop was there. The first one was there. It was a farm, and it was converted to a fish and chip shop with coal-fired fryers. So they're putting coal, and it's like a fire. And that was in 1912. So that fish and chip shop has been there forever. It's been through 2 world wars. It's been through 2 pandemics. It's the Spanish flu and then the COVID thing. It's faced everything, and come out with a clean pair of heels. It really has. I think the pandemic showed me something. When all the other restaurants had to close, and when Jersey was a strange place for that year. the chip shop could stay open, and we were so busy. It was unbelievable. It was like a football match. So I was in the front, not behind the fryer. I had my guys behind the fryer. I was in the front, and what I would do is allow one person in at a time. They'd place their order, they'd pay for it, I'd give them a number, and they'd stand outside.
Oh, wow.
And they'd stand then on the right, and then the ones who hadn't been served were all on the left. So it was like a football match with 50, 60 people in the car park constantly. It was strange. And then when the food was done, I'd just take the bag out and go, number 5, there you go. A fish and chip shop, I imagine after a nuclear war, there's nothing left. There'll still be a fish and chip shop stand there and a queue of people outside there going, what time do you open? It is that after the fish and chip shop, where do you go? You know, there's no posh restaurants, no pizzerias, no bistros. When that's all finished, the fish and chip shop's left. So it's such a survivor.
It's back to the basics, yeah. Whatever
back
the basics
are, yeah. And even if things got really, really, really bad and people didn't have money, we could still cook chips and serve them that food. And people would still come for that quite humble food. They would still come for that affordable, humble food. You know, so I know that the fish and chip shop will go on forever. I think if I did, as you said, drop dead a bit of a bump, then it would be incumbent on me to let Andre. I'd leave it to Andre. That's what I would do, because Andre's he's worked with me and he's such a good guy. He really is.
How long he's been with you?
I bought that shop in 2008, and he was already there, so he'd already worked for the chap before. He decided to stay with me. We retrained him, and he took the training. He said, okay, this is how you do it properly. And he was fine. I think he was relieved to have somebody there that knew what to do. You know, it wasn't all to him trying to guess, how do you make this? What do you do with that? To have someone there and go, right, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this is how you do that. And he was just like, wow, okay, this is fabulous. So he's fantastic.
Yeah, I do like Andrew. He's such a nice guy. And
he's quite a simple, honest man, but in the best possible ways. You know, not complicated, not tricky, just honest, hardworking, and a very loyal man. He's wonderful. I'm very, very lucky to have him. I am.
What advice would you give to someone like younger or at the beginning thinking about opening a fish and chip shop?
What I would say is it's not so much a job as a way of life. And what I mean by that is if you're in a place from 11 a.m. in the morning till 12 at night, that's your whole day. It's not really for a family man or an older man. It's more of a youngster's type of job to have that, just the durability, to be able to get through those long shifts. What I would say is it's a very profitable business and it's a good business, but it's very, very hard work. And it really is. It's
demanding.
Yeah, it's people don't really realize. They think, oh, you just do this and it all just appears, like yourself. By the time people get served in a restaurant or whatever, there's so much work gone into producing that they don't see. It gets
especially when you keep the standards, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Because as we were talking earlier, if you were to go everything frozen, then you can turn up, 10 minutes before serve, or just turn on the fries, make sure they are, then everything goes in, and that's it.
I'm a perfectionist, so I could never do that. I would rather leave it than do that, and that's the truth of it. If I'm going to do a job, I want it to be done as well as it can be done. I really do. And that could be cleaning a toilet. That could be the smallest thing. I will do it, to such a good degree, because I can't not do it any other way. Do you know what I mean?
I had a guy because you're talking about the quality and all that. I had a guy at work, it must have been a few months back, and he was saying that, they're not really good fish and chips here in Jersey. And I'm like, have you tried Prime Fry? He was like, I don't really know. I don't even know where it is, And then I gave him the details and all that. And there was someone next to me that kind of overheard the conversation, and they were both from the UK. So I guess maybe, I don't know. I mean, you tell me, the standards of the fish and chip shops in the UK is probably higher, or it all depends. It might be
definitely higher.
But
definitely.
They were saying, and that guy, they overheard the conversation. He was like, it's like at home. He was like, it's like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because he was from Yorkshire or something. He's like
that's
home.
Such a nice compliment.
I mean, genuinely,
that's such a nice compliment.
Probably, because I said it, and because we work in the past, not that he didn't believe me, But hearing it from someone, because they were actually close in the UK where they both are from, and then hearing it from that guy, I think it was so powerful. And I think literally on that day or that coming Friday, he went to get some fish and chips from me, and he was really impressed.
That's really, really nice. To say it's just like home.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, exactly.
That's the highest accolade ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, genuinely.
Yeah.
But then, do you have any advice for younger Tom? If let's say now, with all the knowledge that you've got, would you do anything different? Do you have any advice that you would kind of like?
Would I do anything different? Not really. I've really, really enjoyed my life in Jersey. I've really enjoyed it. It's been hard work, but it's been very rewarding. And it's allowed me to basically be in a position. I have 3 children now. And it's allowed me to be in a position to take care of those children, as they grow into adulthood, to help them with maybe getting their own place to live and things like that. And that's important to me. That is really important to me. My youngest now is Ava. She's 10. So she's in private school and whatnot. So I've got another 8 or 10 years of that. So no, I wouldn't change anything, actually. I actually wouldn't change anything. Whatever happened to you made you who you are today. Every bit of it, even the parts we didn't like, they made you who you are today. So you've got to love your fate, and I do. I don't have any regrets. And I've had such a lovely life. Since I came to Jersey, it's been so, there's something so rewarding about being able to set yourself to a goal and accomplish the goal and keep on accomplishing. It's such a nice thing. And Jersey gave me that opportunity, whereas Liverpool never did. Liverpool, when I left school, there were no jobs. It was the height of the riots. It was really awful. And people just wanted to leave the city because there was nothing there. So Jersey for me was like a godsend to find this place. Do you
see yourself staying here for the rest of your life?
Not necessarily. What I would say to you is once Ava has grown, don't get me wrong, I like to travel, but I would never leave Jersey while my youngest is still in school and whatnot. After that, anywhere, Australia, anywhere, Radu, anywhere. A few years ago, I went to Uruguay and I quite loved Uruguay. It was fabulous. Met some lovely people there. I met the vice president of Uruguay, a guy called Howell. It was fantastic. Oh, wow. Yeah, it sounds quite exotic and different, but you'd be surprised how the same it is. You fly all that way and it's quite, I don't know. So yeah, who knows?
Tell us a bit about the Prime Fry Ghost. Because I know I was there. Yeah. I was there and you were talking and I'm like, I'm not sure if he's serious about it. Uh-huh. And then I could also see on the website. So I want to know now more about it. And people probably want to know more about it.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is if anybody doubts, you're welcome to come and stay overnight in the fish and chip shop. No problem at all. And I guarantee you will not enjoy yourself. Going way on back to the 80s, the old Prime Fry, it was a building, a fish and chip shop with accommodation above. Now, let's not forget that this goes back. I mean, it was made into a fish and chip shop in 1912, so it's already quite old. But before that, it was a farm. So who knows how long the history goes back. Now, what I do know from working there in the 80s is that when you'd finish for the night, someone would have to go upstairs and we'd turn all the front lights off, the signage on the front. You'd have to switch it off. Now upstairs, there were no lights. So as soon as you switched all this light off, it would go completely black. And walking through that room to come down the stairs was just, anybody that did it would just, all of the hairs on the back of the neck would stand up. It's like you walked into a room to switch that light off and somebody did not want you there. The feeling was palpable. It was really, really palpable. And then when they knocked the Prime Fry down, the old chap who owned it, Howard, was a bit of a medium. He's quite psychic. He was into a lot of things, and he got a really good medium over from England to look at it and say, "Look, will you come in and see what's what?" The medium come in. This guy stayed for 3 days, and the guy said, "Look, you've got 4 spirits live here." He said, they're not malignant. He said, they have lived here and they enjoy living here. Although they're not in our time, space or dimension, they still like to live here, so they want to live here. So what I would suggest is that you leave them and they will leave you. Which that's so true now. What I would tell you is, since we've come back to Prime Fry, they play tricks. So if you were there on your own, there was one night and I was going out to town. So after we've closed up, we've turned the radio off. Normally the radio is on quite loud because it has to, broadcast above all of the people and the talk and the machines and loud. So I've switched the radio off. I've gone into the back. I've run a shower. I jumped into the shower, and of course, as soon as I've soaked myself up completely, the radio turns on full blast, and it's completely silent in that fish and chip shop. It's about 12:30 at night, and then the radio turns on full blast. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I mean, I really did. I really did. Oh. So I've turned the radio off, and I stood for a minute, and I'm looking, thinking, and I just said, look, if you do that again, if you do this again, I will do something. I'll retaliate. I'll bring the bell, the book, and the candle. So no more of this. And then it goes quiet. It goes quiet. In the kitchen, I'll be cooking in the kitchen, and behind me, we've got a chopping board with a huge knife on, for cutting fish or whatever. The knife will pick up and just drop, bang, and clatter right behind me, So it's not malevolent or in any way a bad thing. It's just, I suppose you'd call it sort of a joke. They like playing jokes.
But you learn to coexist with these people, so you doesn't kind of like bother you anymore.
Not one bit. And then a good friend of mine, she's a psychic. She's a really, really good psychic. She came into the shop, and she came into the back, and she just looked around, and she said, there's a man sitting over there where we have the potatoes in the back. We've got a dedicated wet room and where we do all our potatoes and whatnot. She said, there's a man sitting there on the potatoes. She said, and his name's Patrick. He's dressed in like farm thingy. And I said, oh, okay. And that was all. That's just an impression, something that she's seen. She said, but he's not in any way, nasty or bad. I said, yeah. I said, I get that. Even the ghouls like to live there. They like Prime Fry. And that's the truth. It's really the truth. But if you're in the shop, often also, which everybody experiences this, when you're in the shop, you hear someone shouting your name. So you will think that I'm shouting you. You will hear my voice. You will hear my voice and think, wow, Tom. You go to the back. There's nobody there. Oh, wow. And it's so distinct, so mimicking distinct. Everybody experiences that there. Everybody, literally, it's like me calling you from the other room. You think, oh, what is it, Tom? You come in and there's nobody there. We have that all the time. But again, it's not a problem. None of it's a problem. There's not a problem.
Yeah, as long as it's some sort of relationship now that, you kind of like live with them, they live with you in the same place, and happy days, Yeah. No, nobody's it's doing any harm to the other.
I suppose it's live and let live.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Live and let die. I don't know.
Perfect. Yeah. So what are Tom's plans in the short term, medium and long? What do you see, professionally?
Yeah. Short term is to get through the next 1 to 3 years with all of these changes. They're quite significant. With inflation, it's just rampant. I mean, they're saying it's 10%. It's way over 20. It's way over 20.
I agree.
And I think that will continue to grow. So this year, we're just trying to get through things on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not looking any further than that, because that's the big problem at the moment. It doesn't pay me to look beyond that. It's just, this is what you've got on your plate, deal with it. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Retirement, I don't know. I might retire in the next couple of years, but I don't know.
I find it really hard to see you as a retired person.
I couldn't do it. Do you know what I would do, Radu? What I always do, I'd go, right, I'm going to retire. That's me. And after 2 weeks, like in Australia, after 2 weeks, I was like, no, I'm bored now. I need to do something, right? What can I study? I've studied all my life. I love studying. I love to be mentally alert. So all I would do is go into another business. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. I think, right, okay.
Other business like no fish and chips, just totally different.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I've got quite a few. There are things that I'd like to do that are not necessarily to do with business, like meditation. I find that really, really powerful, really powerful. I used to do it a lot with a chap called Tommy Grant. Tommy's got a place in Bedford Street, but Tommy's really old now and he doesn't have the energy to run it anymore. But I think at the moment, with the levels of anxiety in the world, the only thing I've ever found that really reduces anxiety is meditation. Even 10 minutes is beneficial, you know. And I think as this anxiety grows, the need for formal meditation groups, large groups, is even more important. You know, when I was working as a counsellor and I was at Silkworth Lodge, I introduced what they called mindfulness, which is meditation, and all of the clients absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it, because it's something you can do that doesn't cost anything, that it's not harmful in any way, but the benefits are immediate. You know, they give you that calmness. It's almost, when you meditate, I found your life, it's like somebody irons out all the creases. Just everything goes well.
Tom, it was an absolutely pleasure to talk to you, honestly. And I hope that, you know, we'll do more, whether at the time you decide to retire, whether to go in other business, whether when we get off this nasty period, you know, with inflation and everything else, and get you on another episode, because I have such a big pleasure, you know, talking to you.
I would love to, Radu, anytime.
And I really appreciate that, you know, you're taking time from family and everything else, you know, other commitments, and come here, because it's not the easiest thing to do when you're involved in that many things.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Radu. Thank you so much.